Hey everybody, this is Raul Gonzalez.
And I'm Oscar Ibieta.
And this is Medicare Agent IQ. And the point of our podcast is we just want to help other people out there to be successful in Medicare.
We want to be a tool. We want to be that resource, especially for those who do feel like they're alone out there. Even if you're not, there's a lot of good information, little nuggets of information that you can get. We talk about, we're always reading books, right? And we talk, it's never a waste. Right. If you can learn one thing from that book. And so I feel like that's the value that we want to bring to you here with this podcast, is if you can take one thing away from our show, then that's a win for us.
Yeah, because I also don't want to just put it like, hey, look, this show's not for you if you've already been doing this a long time, if you have plenty of support, because you're absolutely right. We're still going to be able to bring some value to you could have 20 years of experience. I think you can pick something up from this show, if not just motivation, if not just kind of keep focusing. Hey, what was that? There's a book that we were kind of reading at the same time, The Power of One More from Ed Mylett.
Ed Mylett.
Okay. And he talks about kind of being focused, and I can't remember what the word he actually used. I'm putting you on the spot. Do you remember?
You're putting me on the spot, and I do not remember it.
Well, basically, he talks about, like when you're driving and you see a car, or you're thinking, I want to get this car, and all of a sudden, everywhere you look, every time you turn, you see that car, and it's just everywhere. Well, that's kind of what we want to do with Medicare. Let's get focused on, especially as we get closer and closer to AEP. We want to be ready for that. And so that's what this show is kind of going to do for you, is just help you keep focused and keep your mind on, at least say, keep your eyes on the prize, right? Keep your mind on what we're doing. So today we're going to talk about dual special needs plans. And so I'll tell you that here in San Antonio, there's a pretty big need for people who are on, or people who do have both Medicare and Medicaid. We have a low income population. And I would venture to say, if you're in one of the bigger cities in any state, there's probably a good amount of people that are lower income that could probably benefit from, or who are probably already benefiting from Medicaid. And so I would say that this would be useful for most of those people. There are people even in the smaller metro areas, where, like down in the Rio Grande Valley, where being a dual special, someone with both Medicare and Medicaid. Let's explain that first, because I keep calling everyone dual. So if you don't know what it is, what is someone who is a dual special? What's dual special?
Yeah,
needs?
when you hear us using the term dual, we're referring to somebody who has both Medicare and Medicaid. In most states, it's referred to as Medicaid. Here in Texas, it's Medicaid. It may vary in some other states.
I think in California it's Medi-Cal, or just different names, but kind of pretty much the same thing. It's a state program that is kind of subsidized by the federal government, but it's a state program. So Medicaid is run by the state, by each state. So that's why it varies depending on where you're at.
Yeah, and so today we're just diving into selling to that population, explaining to them what the value is in a Medicare Advantage plan, and having that conversation with them and educating them and just letting them know that about all the extra benefits that they may qualify for that. So again, when you hear us using the word dual, or we refer to somebody as a dual, we're referring to somebody who has both Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah, I was trying to get myself to stop saying dual, and I'm like, all right, just explain it. Yeah, so we're going to do right now is kind of talk a little bit about the needs. So in addition to the fact that there are special needs for that dual client, realistically, even as an agent, there's some special needs that sometimes that they might have, right? So one of those would be even applying for it. And so some agents are say, you know what, let me help you with this. Others maybe hand it off to someone in a nonprofit that does it. And then others might just give them direction to the state. And I don't think that there's a wrong way to do it. I think obviously if you can help them apply, you're adding some value, but you're also kind of putting yourself a little at risk, right? Like if it comes back a couple times wrong, they didn't get it because they missed something, you're kind of putting that back on yourself. But I've seen a lot of agents where they've helped people apply for Medicaid, and those people are so grateful, right?
Yeah. We have an agency down in South Texas, and that's really a lot of the business that they generate is because they're helping people apply for Medicaid. So what they've done as agents is they've become familiar with how to apply for that program, and so they assist people, and so they're bringing value. Again, we don't. You and I both know that we don't get paid to help somebody sign up or to qualify for Medicaid, but they understand that they're helping these people. They're putting them in a better place. And then once they get them qualified for Medicaid, they get them enrolled into a Medicare Advantage plan where they get a lot of extra benefits. So I think the heart of it is they want to help people, and they're doing that, and that brings value to you as an agent. It helps with retention. So if you're trying to, why do we get into this business? It's for the residuals. And so we want, I've heard this term recently, a sticky book, right? We want people who get onto our book of business and they stick on our book of business. And I think that agency is down in South Texas is a great example of that, is their retention is very high simply because they're going above and beyond and doing extra services for their clients.
Yeah. One of the things that people would say about the dual client is that they sometimes lack loyalty. And you're saying that that's not necessarily true, right?
I believe that it's the opposite. And I think you and I would agree. We've had some conversations with agents where they've said to us they're not very loyal, but I would argue that it's probably the opposite. They might be the most loyal because we're going above and beyond and we're doing these extra things.
If you're willing to do those extra things, right? Like if you're willing to kind of, so I think it would take a little bit, maybe it takes a little bit more to earn that loyalty, but once you do, it's yours.
Oh yeah.
And every once in a while, so I had, Natalie, who was on our show not too long ago, she had a situation. She called me. She's like, yeah, man, it was one of those clients that called me all the time. I couldn't believe that they got switched. And the reason I found out is because they called me because they were having an issue with their plan. And I was like, wait. She looked and she saw that they weren't still on the plan. But here was the thing. They still called her because they were loyal to her. And so she was able to move them back to the plan that they were originally on, because they actually kind of, they say they got, how they'll say they got tricked into it, but basically someone met with them and told them, hey, look at all this, look at all the benefits, and maybe don't make it clear, hey, you're also losing your agent who's been there for you. So I would say that they can be very loyal if you earn that loyalty. So that's what the dual client looks like. They're a little different, sometimes with the understanding is a little different also. I think that sometimes, they're a less educated population in general. Like, it's very difficult. We don't want to generalize, but I would say that the dual population, they're low income. And so a lot of times maybe their reading level's not where we would hope it would be. And so there's some challenges that we have to kind of navigate within that, but nothing that would say, oh man, I don't want to work with that population. If anything, I'm like, man, for me, it's really cool, the idea that I can help these people and put them in a better situation that maybe they didn't realize that they could be on. So let's talk about why we would enroll someone because right now, if you have Medicaid and you're in Texas, and that's what we're speaking to right now, but for the most part, in most places, you have the freedom to go to most doctors you want to go to.
Yep, that's right. As long as they take both your Medicare and Medicaid.
Right. And so why would you then say, or why would we move someone over to a Medicare Advantage plan if they have all that freedom?
Well, that's when you have that conversation with them and you explain to them that there are some additional benefits that they could be getting if they enroll into a Medicare Advantage plan. And so it's the easy ones, the obvious ones that we see on the television, the dental benefits, which are not covered by Medicare and Medicaid, vision, hearing benefits, transportation can be a big issue for the low income population if they struggle just to get a ride to the doctor, or maybe they don't get to the doctor because of lack of transportation. That's where we can have the conversation with them and say, hey, look, with a Medicare Advantage plan, some of these plans include a transportation benefit. The big one that we see these days is a grocery card. That's real popular here in Texas, right? A grocery card, or getting assistance with paying your utility bills. That's a huge piece. And so they just, sometimes they don't know what they don't know. And
Right.
so they aren't aware that because they have both Medicare and Medicaid, that they have value, in one of these Medicare Advantage plans. And so it's just a matter of having the conversation with them and saying, hey, look, these are all the extra benefits that you can get. Yes, there's a network, but let's see what we can do let's make sure that your doctors are in the network. Let's find out which doctors are important to you. That's where we start to do some digging and uncover information and really just build the value and have it make sense to them so that they decide to go ahead and enroll into the plan.
Yeah, and I know there's statistics about just kind of people who don't take care of their dental hygiene and what that can do to their heart. Their people are at higher risk, have a higher risk for heart disease if they have gum disease and those types of things. And so if Medicare and Medicaid don't offer dental, I think that right there, just kind of overall picture and why you should say, hey, look, this is something I maybe could look at is, again, when we talk about helping people, what's important to me and just kind of because like the why of what we do is not to make money, right?
Yeah.
There was that book, Find Your Why, right? And the why of why we're in this business is we get to help people. And help people maybe live a healthier life also. So they get some things that maybe they didn't get before, but that dental could be a big contributor to their overall health if all of a sudden someone's getting their dental health taken care of where they couldn't before. So that to me is one big thing. But also people on managed care tend to live longer than people who aren't. And the reason is those plans that they get on, the doctors are incentivized for bringing them in, usually going to be on a quarterly basis. If they go into an HMO, they're going to bring them in on a quarterly basis. They're going to do blood work. They're going to find out if something's happened. And a lot of times early detection is the key to keeping people alive. So when you look at it kind of big picture, you're of course you're making money to do it, but you're helping people and you're putting them in a better position. And that's why an Advantage plan would make sense, even for a dual. Because the worst case to me is we've all heard these stories where someone didn't go to the doctor. They're 75 now. They didn't go to the doctor almost ever their whole life. And all of a sudden they come down with this thing and they've got this cough that won't go away. And then they get the news, sorry, but you're going to be, you've got cancer. You've only got 5 weeks to live. Those types of things. You hear those stories and they're heartbreaking. Well, that's because they're on a fee for service, right? They go and they go to the doctor. The doctor's responsible for treating the sickness. Where on an Advantage plan, on managed care, they're responsible for helping people to be healthier. So got on my soapbox there, but
I love it.
It's such a big thing, and it's a big picture that people don't always even agents don't fully understand. And I want to get excited about the idea that I get to help. And I think about my own grandparents. I think about their situation. They weren't duals, but they were kind of like right in the middle. They were just over the line. I think that there's a lot of people who are, but even then they benefit from being on managed care when you think about their overall health. So that's why it's important to me. That's why I'm like, when people are like, no, don't get on an Advantage plan. No, absolutely get on an Advantage plan. It makes sense. And the question that you have is, if it's your own grandmother, Oscar, if it's your own grandmother or your own mom who is on Medicare and she was a dual, would you put her on a dual special needs plan?
Easy answer is yes.
Without
Absolutely.
a doubt,
Yeah.
right? And so I can sleep really well at night knowing that I would do the same exact thing for my own mom or grandmother that I'm doing for these seniors. So that's why we do that. There's a lot of benefits to it. So let's talk about where you would find the dual special needs clients, because they're out there, and but it's not in the traditional ways. Like what we've seen is that online advertising, like the social media, Google ads, things like that, those aren't really working for them a whole lot, right?
No, they're not working. You got to get out there. You got to get into the community, and you got to find those pockets of wherever it is that you are. But usually, it's going to be in your lower income areas. And so in senior apartment complexes, housing complexes, that's where you want to go and get out and find these people, because you're not the reality is if you're doing online advertising, you may find some of those.
Yeah, a couple.
Right, but for the most part, you got to get out there and you got to go find them, and it's not going to be online.
Yeah, I always talk about meeting people where they're at, and realistically, are a lot of the low income people sitting at home on their phones on the internet? Probably not at least not in the same way. Nowadays, a lot of people have phones, but a lot of this population might even have the flip phones. Mm-hmm. They're getting those
the free phones.
Yeah, the free phones, but they're flip phones. They're not smartphones a lot of the time. So it's you've got to get out. You mentioned senior centers. I think that even getting referrals from those dentists, right? That's something that could happen. Also, some doctors could give you referrals to those low income people that they're seeing on a regular basis. So what happens is, especially with the doctors, you want to help them to understand why obviously there's benefits of being on an Advantage plan, and then talk to them like, hey, if you ever see someone that comes in with just original Medicare and Medicaid, just think about the fact that there's an opportunity here. So that's another thing to do to get those to run into them. And this is where we see a lot of the retail. When we talk about retail, I'm talking about setting up a booth at maybe at a grocery store or even at
a dollar store.
Yeah, flea markets.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if they're flea markets are all over the way that they are here in Texas and South Texas, but those are places where these low income seniors are going. And I think you mentioned dollar stores like Dollar Generals and things like that. Man, if you could set up a table at a place like that, this is where those people are going to come and talk to you and engage with you. Yeah,
I want to talk a little bit about retail, right? We know these big grocery chains. We know the Walmarts. If you're in Texas, HEB is king here in Texas. But let's talk about the dollar stores, the Dollar Generals. Those are usually community stores, and it's a lot easier to get into a store there than it would be to get into a big retail chain grocery store, unless your upline has some kind of contract where they can get you into a bigger grocery store. But if you don't, or if there's no opportunity there, I would say get out there and look for the Dollar Trees, the Dollar Generals, because a lot of those permissions are going to come from right there at the local level, the local manager. So if you just walk in and have that conversation with the manager and say to them, hey, look, I'd love to set up a table right outside of your store and just be a resource to answer any questions that people may have about Medicare, you can get them to sign off. You can get that manager to approve it. They don't have to shoot it up the chain, or they're not going to shut you down because it's a huge corporate decision. That you can get permission from there. And so they're usually in the lower income areas. Yeah. And so that's in my opinion, it's a hidden gem for agents who are looking for activity, agents who are looking to grow their book of business. We always say this, right? If you're sitting at home, you're not going to be writing any business there. So it's better to be at a Dollar General for a few hours a day or a few hours a week. Even if you don't speak to anybody, at least you put yourself out there and you gave yourself an opportunity to get in front of people versus being at home doing nothing.
Yeah, I would say that another place that I've seen people is at McDonald's. I know that sounds crazy, but imagine just going and talking to the manager first. Hey, would it be okay if I pay for cups of coffee for seniors and set it up there, and they come get a cup of coffee and it's on you. There's seniors there. If you ever go into a McDonald's in the morning, so go in a low income area, there's going to be seniors there sometimes, and they love the thing that seniors love is the word free, right? Or a lot of seniors. So if you're just offering a free cup of coffee, and really what you do from there is just kind of see if you can turn that into a conversation. By the way, I'm glad you got some coffee. Hey, by the way, are you on any kind of insurance? Are you on a special needs plan right now or anything like that? Are you on a Medicare Advantage plan? And sometimes they'll mention, yeah, you know what, I'm on this plan. They're like, oh wow, did you know about this other plan that's doubling the amount of dental that you get? Like from, and you can just throw those kinds of things out there. Some of them are going to say, oh, no, I'm good, thanks. And that's okay. That's not who I'm looking for. I'm looking for the ones that they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know I didn't know that there was other options out there. I just got on this because this was what my sister was on.
Yeah, and the big thing is these people get on a plan, and a lot of times they stay on that plan for years. And as we all know, plans change from one year to the next. And so it's important to get that information. We just want to educate them and let them know, especially with open enrollment around the corner. We want to explain to these people, hey, let's do a plan review and let's look at what your plan is looking like for next year, and let's see if there are any other options. So again, it's just having the conversation, saying the right words to open up an opportunity for yourself.
Yeah. Next thing I wanted to talk about was how to communicate with dual clients, and this is one that I want to make sure that we all understand. And what it is I think this isn't maybe the most appropriate time to break out your largest vocabulary words, right? And one thing that we know about the average low-income individual is maybe their education level is not as high as yours. And so I hate to see people use these words that maybe the average senior is not going to understand, especially the average low-income senior. So I would say that you would do that. A lot of times, I want to make sure that I'm talking, and I'm trying to teach this to my son right now at this young age. But like when people kind of talk in a low voice, like kind of like what I'm doing right now, they're not fully communicating to that senior, and maybe they're hard of hearing, and maybe it's a struggle. So make sure that you're talking, you're projecting your voice, talking loud enough that they're going to understand.
I'd also say maybe slow things down a little bit. Don't be in such a hurry. I think eye contact, if you're meeting face to face, it's, in my opinion, the best way, right? But if you're meeting face to face, eye contact, make sure that you're reading their facial expressions and get a gauge on whether or not they're understanding what it is that you're saying. Maybe take a moment to pause and say, hey, look, does everything make sense so far? Is there anything you have a question about? But going back to your use of vocabulary, don't use the big words or stay away from it, because even if you are using those big words, I would argue that they're gonna just let you go on with whatever it is that you're saying and not stop you and say, hey, what does that mean? Because maybe they might be a little bit embarrassed. I know sometimes I am, right? When we're in conversations and people use big words, I'm like, oh gosh, I have to pull out my phone and Google what that means and kind of make it make sense for whatever context it was being used in. So don't overdo it with the words. I'd say simplify it, slow yourself down, and make sure that you're projecting well enough and just doing a good job of communicating. Make them feel good, make them feel at ease, make them feel like they're in a safe space with you.
And I think empathize. I've seen where seniors are gonna, especially these low income seniors, are gonna tell you about their story. They're gonna tell you about the fact that financially they're struggling. And I've been in appointments with agents, and it's so frustrating because, when I go and I do a ride along and just kind of help and guide them, the senior starts telling them, it's been a struggle lately. I haven't been able to pay this, and I haven't been able to pay for that. And now I found out that my daughter lost her job, and so her and her son are going to move in here, and it's a struggle, and I don't even know what I'm going to do. And I'll see people writing and say, yeah. Mm-hmm. And kind of like that, like if that's your heart, maybe this isn't the right business for you. And that's a hard thing to say, but realistically, put down your pen. And if they're pouring out their story to you that's heartbreaking or whatever it is, take the time, listen to them. They're people, they're important, they deserve respect, and let's actually care for the individuals, and don't make this about okay, I got another cell. This is about an individual that you have in front of you, a person, and they deserve respect. So
yeah, and then all that being said, right, you're hearing you're hearing everything that they're saying to you. Maybe this person is not already on Medicaid, but you've discovered that they may qualify. So what are we going to do? We get to be the hero in this situation, and we get to say, hey, look, I can help you the $164.90 that they're deducting from your Social Security check, I think we can get you on a program where they're not going to take that out of your Social Security check. In addition to that, with this Medicare Advantage plan, you being a dual, you can qualify for a grocery benefit. You can get up to $150 a month. So what happens there in that situation? You just put $165 back into their Social Security check on a monthly basis, and you gave them $150 in a grocery benefit. That's a $300 swing that you can help. And so we talk about why we're in this business and why we do this, and empathizing. And so it's like, man, it's a great feeling. And right back when we used to sell a whole bunch, when you're able to bring that to somebody, I mean, they love you and everything that you did from them. And of course, you're the hero. And of course, we're going to get paid for that transaction. But the best part of it is we get to walk away with our head up high and say, hey, look, wow, I really helped this individual. And I know that they're grateful, and they're going to be loyal. Believe that they're going to be loyal, and they're probably going to refer some people over to you.
Yeah. Hey, I want to talk real quick about a couple of common challenges that people have in dealing with low income or the dual population, and just a couple of, obviously, there are people who would say that they are less loyal. I don't personally believe that. I think that they are as loyal as you earn. And if you earn that loyalty, they're going to be there. And we talked about this earlier, but I just kind of wanted to reiterate that there's a challenge of loyalty. But when you are that first person, tell them, I want to be the first person you call if there's ever an issue. Now, understand that there's going to be things that I'm going to have to tell you to call the 800 number. But I want to be the first call, because there are some things that I just know off the top of my head, right? Like if you call me and say, hey, I wanting to go to the gym, Raul, and what number do I call to go to the gym? Oh, let me just look it up for you. Where are you at? Oh, okay, look, I know exactly. There's a gym that's about a half a mile from you. That's a question I can answer for you without you having to call the 800 number. So I just saved you time. So make me your first call. And so it's about building that loyalty. When you're the first call and you actually return their call, I was just talking to you about, there was an individual, I missed their call twice. I always follow up, but usually by then they've wanted their answer right now. I was like, hey, before we even start recording this podcast today, I need to take this call because I want them to know how important they are to me. Let people know how important that they are to you. That's going to build that loyalty. So I say we can overcome that challenge. And I would say another challenge is a lot of times they're calling more. And what I mean is sometimes I'll talk to agents and they're like, yeah, this client doesn't really know how to read. And so they asked me to come on over and just read this letter that they got. They didn't understand it, and it came from the carrier. And so I'm going to go over there and do that. So those are the kind of things that are building loyalty, but it's a little bit more work, right?
Now, if you're listening and you're getting discouraged by what Raul just said, he's like, well, I don't want that. I don't want to be having to go over to my client's house and reading a letter. Don't shy away from that. I would say, because I've been in that situation, and what I do is, hey, is there anybody in the house, or I would ask, do you have a smartphone? Are you able to take pictures with your phone? Or is there anybody
for them to send it to you so you don't have to go over?
Yeah.
Love that.
Is there anybody in your house? Does your daughter live with you? Is anybody there who's got a smartphone? Can you do me a favor? Can you just have them take a picture of it and send it over to me? And Raul, 70% of the time, maybe even higher, it's an ad. It's an advertisement. You just look at the reading at the very bottom, and it says, this is an advertisement, not affiliated. And it's just, oh, hey, Mrs. Betty Sue, you can throw that away. It's just an advertisement, but thank you so much for calling me. I appreciate it. Thanks for calling me and not calling that number that's on that sheet of paper.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super, super easy. I'm glad that you brought that up. But I will say, like, part of this business, part of why you're getting perpetual income is because there is some extra work, and we should be earning our pay. It's like we enroll them one time, make them be the first call. And I'll tell you, if you're not comfortable with being that first call, they'll probably find an agent who will. So
I love that you said that. Sorry, real quick. I've had that conversation with agents where they tell me, hey, this person just keeps calling. I'll say, hey, look, you're just going out to earn that renewal for this month.
Right. Yeah. Like especially with that, because every client that you keep for this year, that's a sell I didn't have to get for this year, right? Yeah. So, hey, just wanted to go ahead and close up. I would just encourage everybody, don't be afraid to sell to that dual population. That's what this whole thing is, and make it part of your strategy. It feels really good to know that you're helping other people, and that to me is why I do what I do. So it feels really good. Any other last thoughts?
I got nothing. I think this was a great show. I feel like we could probably go on a little bit longer, but no, this is great.
Well, if you have any other questions, do us a favor. Shoot us a message on. We're on Instagram, on TikTok, we're on Facebook, so pretty much, and YouTube. So if you're on any of those platforms, don't hesitate to reach out. Hey, just do me one favor. If you find this helpful at all, if you know someone else who works in Medicare, would you share it with them? I think that's the only way that people will find this content, is with people like yourself who have engaged with it, listened all the way through the end. If you would do us a favor, share it with a friend, because I know that there's other agents out there that would find this valuable. So until next time, thank you guys so much.